You only get one chance to do it right, so we gotta do it. Macho Man Randy Savage. Here it is. WWE's second attempt at making a Macho Man Randy Savage DVD. This is, of course, the Blu-ray release today. The Randy Savage story, Macho Man. There he is in all of his glory in his pink tights, yellow boots, yellow knee pads, that sort of signature look for the Macho Man. Look at those glasses on there and that headband, looking like $1,000,000 right there. Of course, today is DVD Tuesday. Hopefully everybody headed on out to Best Buy. Amazon was able to lower their price. They're no longer doing the Blu-rays at $40 anymore, so you're able to go over and pick this up $24.99, I believe. Same price at Best Buy. Had a huge problem with Best Buy today. Small miniature man. What is the point of doing an online pre-sale for an in-store pickup if when you get to the store that people tell you they didn't pull your order due to low stock? That's why I did the pre-order, dumbass. You only get 2 Blu-rays per store most times, so I did the pre-order to make sure I got one. So I had to go over and grab one off the shelf because they were too lazy to do it themselves. So I hate Best Buy. I love Amazon. Please bring back your good pricing. I'll pay $1. I'll pay you $2 more to do the Amazon Prime. You just deliver it to my house. Come on, Amazon. You love WWE. I love you guys, so just help me out. But here's your cover, the Randy Savage story, Macho Man Randy Savage. Pretty sick stuff. Open this up. Oh, look at that set. I don't really do a whole lot of the wrestling DVD news searching because I want to be surprised when I pop these open. I don't want to know everything that's going to be on a documentary before I get it. The matches to me sort of leak out. I hear about a few, and a few that are going to be on there, but this is going to be some good stuff tonight. I can't wait to watch this. I might delay the Survivor Series full show preview a day to make sure I check this out. But there's your documentary stuff. Leading up his birth, his career, and his death, of course, May 20th, 2011. I'll always remember where I was. I was sitting in my living room, sort of watching TV, and I saw the tweet come across Twitter, and I couldn't believe it. But here we are, Intercontinental Championship match, Savage versus Steamboat from Wrestling Superstars. We got Macho Man Randy Savage versus Bruno Sammartino. Intercontinental title match from the Boston Garden. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. This is from the Maple Leaf Gardens in 1987. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Harley Race. Macho Man Randy Savage and Strike Force versus the Honky Tonk Man of the Hart Foundation. Steel Cage 6-man tag from the Boston Garden. That's good, because if you're looking at this, these are a lot of matches that aren't on the other set. So that at least they're, recreating it. They're not acting like that last one didn't count. I know a lot of people are going bananas over that box set that's out there where you actually get the older Macho Man DVD, which I've heard is out of print. But still not that hard to find and hard to pick up, especially if you're looking for a used copy. But you want your documentary to have your best matches on it. But these got to be good, right? We got Savage versus DiBiase, Boston Garden from 1988. Savage versus Bad News Brown, Harlem Street Fight, Maple Leaf Gardens, 1989. We'll go from there to Savage versus Hogan in Madison Square Garden. That should be probably the best match of the whole set in my book. Love me some Mega Powers Collide. Go over to the next disc. We're skipping over to 1990. Savage versus Piper in Miami. We got, I don't know they have many matches from Miami house shows. Then we go, I can't read that because it's the damn thing. Oh, Savage versus Shawn Michaels. 1993 match. Savage versus Warrior. Savage versus Ric Flair. Of course, this is a WCW match in 1995 when he made the jump. Looks like that's going to be the first one on there. I fucked up. The Savage versus Flair is from 92. The first match on there is going to be 95 against Arn Anderson. Then we go to another Savage versus Flair. This is a steel cage match from Super Brawl. Savage versus DDP at Halloween Havoc 1997. There's your Blu-ray exclusives. You got some Savage versus Hogan in a lumberjack match. Macho Man Randy Savage versus Hacksaw Jim Duggan. Winner is the King of the WWE. Macho Man Randy Savage versus the Blue Bloods. I have no clue what that is. WCW Saturday Night 2-on-1 match, I guess. Savage versus Booker T from Monday Night Nitro. Would have been nice if they would have included the match that Stone Cold Steve Austin talks about all the time. The Macho Man versus Steve Austin one-match encounter from WCW, just so we can sort of relive that. I haven't been able to find that online anywhere. But, of course, with the Blu-ray exclusives, you get a whole bunch of bonus stories and everything like that. Should be worth it just to check those guys out. But let's check out the back of the box just so we can see, you know, what they're hyping up. Look at that. Oh, man. The Savage looks like $1 million right there. Of course, there he is with the Mega Maniacs, with him winning the championship. And over here, Red, White, and Blue Savage from the Monday Night War days. Don't really, just say it's featuring Hogan, Lex Luger, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Bret the Hitman Hart, Ric Flair, Kevin Nash, DDP, Lanny Poffo. Of course, they had to put over the fact that it's his brother instead of just saying the Genius. But good stuff here. Can't go wrong. Savage, Savage, Warrior, Savage. Boom. Really cool. Man, this is going to be fun times. Hopefully everybody's going out and checking this out. I saw on Twitter this morning the gym was having some hard times checking this out. But hopefully everybody out there enjoys their Randy Savage Tuesday. Heads on out to Best Buy or heads on over to Amazon and just hit the order button. Buy it now. Hey, what is up everybody? This is Stevie Breach coming to you with the conclusion of Macho Man Randy Savage Day here in the YWC. I was able to check out the Macho Man Blu-ray today. I watched the documentary first thing when I came home from work. I sat down here. I ate some cheese pizza and had a few Shasta Colas as we sat back and watched the awesome documentary. And honestly, I thought this was a really good show from WWE. Jim and I was right. It was a very emotional ride from the very beginning. This is set letting you know that Randy Savage has passed on. And, you know, the opening scenes, if you didn't check it out on the WWE Network with the live free preview, I think they showed like the first 15 minutes of the documentary last night. It starts with Lanny Poffo visiting the site where Macho Man Randy Savage crashed his Jeep in 2011. The year that I really thought that Randy Savage was going to be not really coming back to the WWE, would, you know, was going to take on a little bit of a he wasn't coming back to WWE, but he was going to show his face in WWE. You can remember it was such a big deal when he showed up at I'm not sure if it was at Comic-Con or if they showed a video, but it was for the release of the Ringside collectibles, Mattel, what are those things called? The big ass figures. I think everybody went out and purchased that. It was the first Macho Man Randy Savage figure, basically, since they were made by the old sort of flexi figures back in the day. That everybody used to get, but I really thought that was going to be, you know, him coming back into the WWE family, where basically he would maybe take a position into the Hall of Fame, and things were starting to come back together. This DVD, honestly, to me, was a top-notch one. There's so many of them that come out, and you watch them, and you're like, man, this is the best one they've ever done. I was trying to, you know, see where it was going to place in this year's top 5, bottom 5 DVD releases for my upcoming, you know, I always do those at the very end of December to give away the DVD awards. And I think as of right now, it's going to be hard to beat this one. Here we are in November. The Paul Heyman documentary was probably one of the biggest releases so far. This one's right there behind it. I'm sorry, this one's right there in front of it. A little bit shaky. I just watched this. I know I watched Jim's sort of review after watching it, and he cried. And I didn't cry, but honestly, it tears on your insides. I mean, like, we're not supposed to be seeing our heroes die. And just like Jim said, watching the Mega Powers back in the day, it was one of the reasons that I fell in love with professional wrestling. How much of a big deal I made about meeting Hulk Hogan at WrestleMania 30. Hulk Hogan's one of my favorite wrestlers of all time. It's him and Triple H. But right there, behind those guys is a whole bunch of guys. And Macho Man is a guy that's right with there. He had the whole package from basically delivering promos and giving a presence. His in-ring work was top-notch. Basically, a thing that they go over in this documentary is how he was basically a perfectionist. Whether if you're talking about WrestleMania 3 and him basically writing out a script move by move, number by number about what order the match is going to go in, something that really wasn't done at that time. Basically he gave a yellow legal pad of paper to Ricky Steamboat and told him basically to memorize the match. This is something that a lot of wrestlers talk about WrestleMania 3. A lot of people call this one of the greatest WrestleMania matches. Some people call it one of the best wrestling matches of all time. And some people will knock it because basically Savage and Steamboat basically worked off a script like they were movie stars instead of going out there and actually feeling out the crowd and calling it in the ring, which a lot of workers thought was the real way to work. I don't know, when you look at WrestleMania 3, when you look at the history of WrestleMania, it is one of the matches that really stands up. And hearing Ricky Steamboat talk about this match, I recently learned from the Wrestling Observer, Steamboat and Savage, they weren't enemies, they weren't friends. Basically, Steamboat said that him and Savage never really talked outside of wrestling. They hadn't talked before his death in a long time. They never really got together and reminisced about what that WrestleMania match meant. And you can tell the Steamboat was going over it at the end and talking about Savage's death. He just says that when fans see him, it's not one of the 6,000 matches that Steamboat had throughout his career. It's the one match against Macho Man from Randy Savage at WrestleMania 3 that everybody remembers and everybody calls out saying this is the one that really stands out. Macho Man is really a guy. I really feel that anybody who's been on the top of a WWF, anybody who's been the champion, as a guy that should be put in the Hall of Fame. And you can look at the WWE Hall of Fame and think it's a joke or whatever you want to think of it as. People always point out Coco Beware is in there. But, Savage is a guy that really deserves it. I mean, when you talk about the guy who picked up the ball after Hulk Hogan left to go make No Holds Barred and play movie star, the year that he had the championship, you got to think that Vince more than likely thought that they were going to fall off a little bit between WrestleMania 4 and WrestleMania 5. Hogan was going to come back and do the pay-per-views, but without Hulk Hogan, how were the house shows really going to do? And you can even say that when they got to WrestleMania 5, wrestling was stronger than it was at WrestleMania 4, in my mind. It was growing at that point. From WrestleMania 5 going into WrestleMania 6, maybe it dropped off a little bit. Maybe it wasn't what it was. But this was a damn good documentary. I mean, this was loosely based around a sort of an interview that WWE or somebody did. I'm guessing it's WWE, with Macho Man Randy Savage in 1993, talking a lot about his career and where he came from. A lot of the story is told by his brother, the genius Lanny Poffo. And then, throughout there is a lot of wrestlers, whether if it's Lex Luger, Bret Hart, Hulk Hogan, Jimmy Hart, Ted DiBiase, Ricky the Dragon Steamboat, Kevin Nash. A lot of the guys that you pair up with Macho Man, whether if they were some of his biggest matches of his career, or whether if it was just guys that were on the road with him and knew what it was like. I mean, there's highs to this, basically talking about, him growing up. Talked a lot about his family and his father being a professional wrestler who ran his own wrestling company in Kentucky, going up against the USWA with Jerry Jarrett and Jeff Jarrett, and basically through the Randy Savage's baseball career ending. He went into wrestling, but the secret that nobody has ever known was that Randy Savage secretly, even when he was in the minor leagues with the St. Louis Cardinals, was wrestling on shows in Tampa, Florida, under a mask as the name of the Spider. So it was an easy transition for him to get into wrestling, and it was through a split-branded show, which was his father's promotion going up against the USWA. It was Macho Man Randy Savage getting signed and going into Memphis Wrestling, and from there, Vince McMahon sort of spotting him and buying him up and making him a big part of the future of the WWE. I have a hard time with WrestleMania 2 in my mind about what that went down. I think that WrestleMania 2 is one of the worst WrestleManias of all time. I don't know if Savage was a part of WrestleMania 2, but WrestleMania 3, him coming in and having the big Intercontinental Championship match with Ricky the Dragon Steamboat. Of course, everybody knows that he beat Tito Santana along the way to become the Intercontinental Champion, and from there, you go a year later, WrestleMania 4, he wins the WWF Championship Tournament that was set up to crown the vacant championship, which was because of the screw job finish in the Andre the Giant versus Hulk Hogan rematch on the main event, where Ted DiBiase paid off the bogus referee that had the plastic surgery, and Savage picked up the ball from there and ran with it. As WWE Champion, that led to the Mega Powers, him and Hulk Hogan sort of coming together and then not being able to team together. Then the Mega Powers exploding at WrestleMania 5, talking about the importance of Miss Elizabeth, and basically if you go back and watch, back in the day, it was Randy Savage. He had like a sort of like an open casting call over who was going to be his manager. If you don't remember it, maybe you can remember back to TNA when Bobby Roode was going to start his singles career after leaving Team Canada. In TNA, they sort of redid this, where they brought back Bobby the Brain Heenan and Sensational Sherry. A lot of the most famous managers all trying to become the manager of Bobby Roode. In the end, he picked Mrs. Brooks. That was a ripoff of this, where basically, all these guys were trying to manage the Macho Man, and Miss Elizabeth was the one that was picked in the end, and she was 100% different because, she was the first lady of wrestling. We'd never seen anything like that. A woman walking, this brawling man down to the ring, and Savage was the heel, but she was, the King Kong's beautiful girl that King Kong fell in love with. Savage would ask her questions, and in the limelight, Savage would always sort of, swat her down to where you loved her, but you felt bad for her. It made you hate him more as a heel, and that played such a big part of WrestleMania 5 was the breakup, and these two guys fighting not only over the WWF Championship, but fighting over Miss Elizabeth as well. They talk about basically the new youth movement of the WWF, basically forcing Macho Man Randy Savage into the commentating booth. Macho Man says that he took some time off. It took him about a year and a half to get over the Macho Man and Miss Elizabeth divorce in real life. And he took some time off and wasn't wrestling. It really messed with his ego. It really messed with his insides, just basically thinking that he wasn't able to do what he once did. But he still had the fire inside him, so he took his ball to WCW, where he had a good long career and was able to prove that he could still wrestle. They talk a lot about the bad relationship that everybody thinks that there are, the nasty rumors. We won't talk about those because I want to keep this review really, really positive. Because of how much I love the Macho Man, and basically it's not hard to find those rumors if you don't know what I'm talking about, and I'm hoping that you guys will keep those out of the comment box down below. But basically, Lanny Poffo tells the story of basically just Macho Man not liking those Huckster versus the Nacho Man videos that WWF was running against WCW back in the day after all of the stars that basically packed up their bags from WWF and went over and signed with Eric Bischoff. And there was specific ones where they made fun of Randy Savage's age and his bald spot. There was a spot where basically the Larry King character talked about Miss Elizabeth and Hulk Hogan having an affair back in the day. And if anybody's going to know if he was having an affair, it's more than likely going to be Vince McMahon. And for him to sort of give a thumbs up to that sort of a thing in the skits, it's more than business. That probably was pretty damn personal. When WCW closed up shop, they almost made it seem like Lanny Poffo thought that there was a shot that Macho Man was going to get a call, but when he didn't, he took it really personal, and that sort of closed the door on his wrestling career, and it was over and done with. And we know about him coming back and almost starting to do something with WWF. I don't know if he signed a deal with Mattel or signed a deal with WWF or WWE at the time. I guess we'll never know. But May 20th, 2011, his Jeep crashed into a tree when he had a heart attack driving down the road. Hulk Hogan, who is one of my favorite guys in the world, but he tells some pretty bullshit stories that it's hard to believe what he's saying, when he's talking about how they hadn't been friends in 9 years, but of course he tells a story of he's the guy who got Randy Savage a job in WCW, so it doesn't come together, your story, Hulk. But great stuff. He was the cream of the crop. He was one of the best ones ever, Macho Man. I'm glad to have your DVD and documentary in my DVD collection. So thank you very much, WB, for putting out a great one. Hopefully you guys pick this up. Amazon, Best Buy, Circuit City, whatever you guys got to do. Get this. Peace out.